Hey everyone, welcome to another live stream. I'm happy here. Uh whew, another week gone by. I am very appreciative of everyone who's in the live chat room right now. And like I always do, I like to thank everyone who's in the live chat room. And if you're not here to watch it, I know different time zones, different places in the world. If you're watching a recording, I still thank you so much. First one in the door, Timothy, Solly. Hey Nelson, uh, are you going live on Crowdcast today? So, as you've seen last week, the stream dropped twice during the lives, and I was like, why? Why? This hasn't happened in a long time. So I was like, gotta drop it. I gotta drop that service. They were kind enough to give me a refund, but hopefully in the future we can use it again or something else that will um let us stream and have more features like polling, have a call to action, have timestamps on questions. But for now, we're doing everything manually again. Through thank you again to Colleen, wonderful volunteer who is jotting down all of your questions so I can get to it later in the stream. Who else is here? Scott is back. Peter, oh Peter, I haven't seen you in a long time. Welcome back. Henny is here. Sarah No Socks, thank you so much for being. Jeremy is back. Eric, Natalia from Greece. Yeah, where's everyone from? Denver, Colorado. Where are you, Stephen Love from Florida? Where are you? I'm looking for you. Pablo's back. Junio's back. Oh, hey, there's a new person. There's a Mike Locke in here. Yeah, we'll be talking to Mike later in the stream. He's gonna talk to us and teach us all about common sense UX. If you haven't subscribed to him yet, Go ahead and click on it. I think you can click on his avatar. Can you? No? Well, uh, Colleen, if you can put his link in the chat room so people can find him on YouTube, give him a subscription because he can learn so much. He's been talking about UX on YouTube for a long time, and very pleased to have him here. But before we get him on the stream, some announcements. Yeah, let me my back. Uh, yeah. So this launched a week and a half ago. Community, and huge response. Thank you to everyone who's joined. Over in 1 week, over 250 members. Four of them are the Pixel Geek tier who are helping support the website. What I'm trying to do with the funds, and I spell it out really clearly down here in the FAQ. I would like for this community to run by itself, pay for itself. Uh, right now we're paying for MemberStack, Termly, Zapier, Circle, Google Domains, and Mailchimp, all to get this community going. But if it's running itself, if it has more funds, I would love to give that back to the community members. Need online scholarships? I want to do that. More perks, or even really nonprofit donations made in our community's name. Cool. All of us pitching in to give to a community, an organization that needs it. So yeah, that's what's happening. So thank you all so much. If you haven't joined it yet, please go to pixelgeek.community and just there's a free tier, there's a $20 a month, and if you want my coaching, it's $100 a month, and I want to help you grow your no code career. Inside of the Pixel Geek, join the chat board. This is what circle.so is. And we have a couple people who are in there, and I want more people. So I can help you with your projects. We can all help each other. And, in between streams, just chat. Every Monday and Friday, I'm doing a thing on the random chat where it's Motivation Monday. That's, so self explanatory. But also, Failure Friday. Reflect on what you failed on and don't hide it from the world because that's how we all grow, right? So, yeah, join in the community and the chat board. What else do I have? Let's see here. Oh yeah, upcoming updates. So on the Pixel Geek community, I'm working on public profiles, which is a half step to a more human job board, and which is another step towards no code awards, which I'm working on, and that's gonna be fun. If you've worked on a project this year, you'll be able to enter it. I already have sponsors with prizes. I've talked to MakerThread, MakerPad, MemberStack, JetBoost, and they're all pitching in to give awesome prizes. And my wife is gonna design some shirts for our community and mugs. So that's gonna be fun. So many things I'm planning. So many things me and the Pixel Geek crew are working on. But join it now. All right. Skip over. Oh yeah, if you haven't watched the stream, I was on the stream with Aaron, awesome community member who loves to connect things with Zapier, Integromat, Parabola, all automate all the things. Check out his website, AAT, automate all the things. Yeah, AATT.io. Colleen, if you can drop that link as well. Yeah. All right. Cool. I think we got through it. Um, so many things to talk about. Let me get back in the live chat room. Uh, here's a new person. Hello from Denver, Colorado. Liu Bove, welcome to the stream. Ayo from Tunisia, welcome. Oh, Steven's here. Green from Texas, in Florida, but was from Texas. Madhu is new and welcome. All right. We'll talk about FinSuite's text and the Maker Day winners later, but I really want to get Mike Locke on the stream right now because I want to learn more about UX. I think about UX all the time, but I'm not sure if I'm thinking the right way. So when I'm building websites. I don't really have a process, but I would love to know more about how Mike does his process and all the things that he does for his career and all the community members that he has. So if you have any questions for Mike, drop it in the live chat and Colleen will note it down and we'll open up the floor for your questions right after I'm done with mine. Right. Let's see. Right, can I get on? Okay. Okay. If it works, Mike, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can see me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Awesome.
Chat, can you hear him? Let me know with the thumbs up or yes in chat. But yeah, hopefully there's no echo. Sometimes these technical things happen. But anyways, moving forward. Mike, thank you so much for taking the time off of your weekend to be with me and the Pixel Geek community.
Appreciate it, Nelson. You are awesome, and I like everything that excuse me that you're doing. I do the same thing, and I think we kind of speak the same language. There's a lot of things that you and I do that are very similar. Just we're passionate about what we do, and then how we can share that knowledge with other people. And so I think you and I we've been friends online for a while. Haven't met in person yet, but it's
One
been
day.
pretty cool. Yeah, one day. No, but a little bit about me. I'm a designer, a product designer, UX designer for over 20 years, and I've always had a entrepreneur spirit. I think we all do, just naturally. And so I've every time, ever since having a full time job for the last 20 plus years, I've always dabbled with side hustles, and I will talk about that. Like that, I feel everybody should do that, and I'll talk about how I think about that. But so for the last 10 years, I've been on YouTube. A lot of people find me on YouTube, me sharing tutorials and things like that, and that's trickled into me building a platform. Initially, my first course that I built, the membership site, was on WordPress. My second one is on a platform called Kajabi, but I got hooked on, or throughout this entire time, my entire passion is I'm getting to the point now where I want to do, I want to just continue to train and coach and, provide career advice. And my big passion is helping people break down this complex thing called UX. And because myself coming from a background where I'm completely self-taught, and I was watching one of your videos, Nelson, one time where you're saying you learned how to code like using I think it was front page. I
It
believe.
started with GeoCities.
Right,
Yeah,
right, right.
yeah.
And yeah, GeoCities. And so I started on Netscape Composer. So I don't know if you remember that. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yep. Netscape Composer was and a lot of people don't know, but old school cats like myself, Netscape was the most popular browser. And I remember that period before Internet Explorer took over. And long story short, but that's how I got started with my HTML, CSS website building career, was through that WYSIWYG called Netscape Composer, which was pretty cool. And
For you Zoomers out there, please wiki Netscape.
Netscape, but long story short, my passion now is breaking down a complex thing, which I'll explain in a little bit, UX, helping people focus on the core skills that is required by a UX designer, which once I explain it, you'll notice that it's common sense and everybody can actually consider themselves a UX designer. They just have to package these things that I'm saying. And once they do, that's why my big thing right now is called common sense. Common sense UX design. And
Yeah.
that's kind of like what I'm big on right now.
Oh. All right. Cool. Yeah. I already have many questions, but
Let's go.
we'll start with oh, I'm echoing. Scott says I'm echoing. Ah. Oh, technical stuff, technical things. Let me see here. Let me see if I can fix it live, and
You
that's the
sound good
beauty
on
of
my
live
end.
stream.
You sound okay on my end.
Yeah. I go open up Wavelink. Uh, yeah, I don't. I started surfing on Netscape a long time ago, and I feel old. Remember the days of the browser wars? Ugh. Those were the days before the Chrome and the Firefox. It was IE versus Net. Oh man. Um, I'll try to. Okay, so people are saying I'm getting echo. I'm gonna try to real quick. Test. Probably getting. I am sorry, everyone, if it's echoing, but I'm gonna keep going with. I'm gonna keep going with the question. So, easy softball. We'll start with your YouTube career. Like, obviously, you've been doing web design and then just fiddling around with web pages and being a webmaster back then. Um, but YouTube wasn't a thing back in the Netscape days. So why did you start your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so being a designer, I started as a graphic designer, just like everybody else, building web pages and freelancing and stuff like that. And then naturally grew into UX as I saw it being a professional sort of title, quote unquote, and a real thing and something that pays well. And then during my career as a UX designer, I caught a video by Gary Vaynerchuk that said, we should all be doing what we love.
Yeah.
And at the time, I thought there's two things that I love. I love designing, obviously, and I love sports. And I thought, okay, so I decided to build a blog around design. And basically lived on Gary Vaynerchuk's sort of videos. I remember one day, 4 hours straight, midnight to like 4 a.m., just watching all his videos. And that guy really inspired me. And so I set out to build a blog, and the blog was the content of the blog, because I'm not a good writer, I'm not a good copywriter, but I could do tutorials, quick tutorials. And so it was putting tutorials on YouTube and then posting them on my blog. And I thought, that's how I'm going to do what I love. I'm going to monetize this blog. Back in the day, blogs with the little ads on the side. Uh,
Yeah.
that was my thing. I'm like, I'm gonna post all this content and I'm gonna have little ads on the side, and I'm gonna make this little supplemental income on the side while I'm working full time. And so that
Yeah.
was my passion down to that's how I got started into YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah. And when did you start your channel?
I started, like, I dabbled. I think I created it in 2009. It took like maybe 9 months off, something like that. Um, and then I was like, do I need to do this, or can I do this? I saw other people on there that was like more advanced than I was in terms of like web design.
Yeah.
And we all have those questions like, am I too late? Should I start it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I just started it around 2009, 2010. I started posting tutorial videos, and then slowly showed myself on camera, just trying to do stuff. And once you get a couple of comments like, hey, that's cool, can you do more? And then it just kind of downhills from there.
Yeah. Yeah. You feel that positivity of people like, yeah, thank you so much. I learned from your video. And you're like, huh, do another one. And then you
One,
get two
yeah.
more comments and you're like, oh, I should do another one.
Yeah, and 100%, like, and I live off of Gary Vaynerchuk. Was this person that just says like, stop, don't even overthink, like hold the camera up and shoot. And to this day, 10 years later, I still don't know a lot about audio, video, but um, I've helped so many people just by sharing the content and sharing my knowledge. And that's what YouTube is about. It's really not really about being perfect. It's just, if you're honest, you provide, if you're honest and sincere in what you're trying to get out, people will be considerate of that. And they'll be receptive of that. And so they'll take that nuggets and stuff like that, and everyone will both win from that.
I mean, you probably feel the same way about like in any mainstream media platform. There, once it becomes mainstream, the fakeness starts to roll in, and then people feed on that fakeness, and then they notice that uh, fakeness is making more money, and then people are trying to be more fake so they can make more money, and it's all about the money, 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 and
Right.
just like your YouTube channel, I'm just trying to push out positivity and not be fake. And I know that like there's YouTube people out there always put a face or a human face on a thumbnail. And I always look at these thumbnails that are on like the popular videos, like and like a crazy face, and it's like why? And so like to see your channel steadily grow over 100,000 subscribers now, um, without any fakeness, that's that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's like, I could have, obviously, and I do things. Common sense is really just my whole approach about common sense, and we'll get into UX, but everything is just keeping things very simple, like keeping things very
Yeah,
basic. It's really a philosophy, So myself, I could have grown my channel. It could have been a lot higher than 100,000 right now after 10 years, but that's because of the simple principle of not being consistent. I would take weeks and months off, in terms of just I didn't feel like posting. I have a family and I have a life, and YouTube wasn't really my passion. But once I start, if you start posting consistently and you stay there, you're going to grow naturally. And you have all these like you said, those thumbnails. Those are tactics that you can do to get clicks and stuff like that. But if I'm not focused on that right now, I don't really worry about those thumbnails and those different tactics, and
yeah,
and that SEO stuff. I just post what I do, and it's informal. Sometimes it's in a car, because I had a strategy, or not really a strategy, but the thing is, I couldn't always be in a professional setting.
yeah.
So I figure I'm not going to create that standard for my channel, So my standard was very informal. I could be in the backyard, I could be in my car, where the windows rolled up and it's quiet.
Uh,
And you notice that in any of those videos, it's still receptive. People still take on the information that you're giving, and then you can just do what you want. You know what I mean?
all right, all right. Now the segue from that thought to when I first saw you talk about Webflow, you were talking about Webflow in your car. And you're like, I haven't used this yet, but it seems pretty good. I'm gonna give it a try. And I was like, ooh, I can't wait to hear his honest thoughts on it. And now your website, your I think your personal website, or is it your academy site? One of those is actually built on Webflow now. And I'm like, yay, he
No,
crossed
one hundred
over.
percent, 100%. Like, so since we talked, I touched on Webflow, and you interviewed me once. It was really my first interview online, but since then, it's probably been like 5 years, or at least close to it. And I've obviously grown in Webflow. I love Webflow. I use it currently for my portfolio, and I've actually dug deep with Webflow. I actually used it internally at a company that I was recently with last year in 2019, a little incubator startup where I acted as the front end developer. So it was an insure tech sort of product that we were building, and I did the UX from concept to end, all the visual designs. But then, because we're a small team, I told them, I said, hey, I can do these front end screens for you. And so what I did was I used Webflow. Was interesting. And I actually wanted to talk to you about it because there's a lot that I learned during that process and how to use it in a real world environment. So I had to strip out, obviously, Webflow has its own framework, and we were working on another framework. And so I built these individual pages, stripping out some of the framework stuff, and then supplying these devs with this front end stuff that was all done in Webflow. All the responsiveness and all the it was awesome. So I actually I stretched the use of Webflow, like using being a UX designer and actually using it for front end development purpose in a real product development, like org. So it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying the tool. Um, being very honest, I know it's kind of biased because I work at Webflow, but that's just my passion, trying to show people how fun it is to build things.
Yeah.
But now let's go jump into UX finally. Um, yeah, so UX wasn't a term. So we're gonna go back to the early days of your career, going back to Netscape and stuff like that, and then growing. Uh, like when did you notice that, what, UX is my passion? Like, what was it about UX that made you say, what, I'm going in this direction for technology?
I think it was around 2000. 2008, 2009 was when I was working at a company that was, as far as I can remember, was doing UX the way UX I think is ran today, where we were working with product owners. We were actually building prototypes and showing them to customers, and actually, having them use these prototypes, which the prototypes at the time I built was in HTML. It's pretty crazy, but um, that was the first time where I start hearing and learning about UX more so. And then I started to see it and hear it out there. And then I thought, oh, okay. And maybe I'll call myself a UX designer. And so as I started to as years go by, I started to, I guess, look for that, and we would see that more in job descriptions and stuff like that. What's crazy about all this is, just like you and just like everybody else, I'm as confused as everybody else, in the midst of all this, because I'm like, okay, so what is UX? What is it different? What's different about UX that I was doing 10 years prior? And so I was like, scratching my head. And then it took me several years throughout all of this, like, because somebody, when you're self-taught and you're not taught in a school environment and something like that, you feel like, I have common sense. I'm like, maybe there's something that I don't know. Like, there's something that somebody knows that I don't. And so I started to hear this thing called human computer interaction and user experience and stuff like that. And so I said, so let me hold off on my opinions and let me hear this stuff. And so I would work with people with PhDs, master degrees in human computer interaction. And after years of working with them, I go, this is still the same stuff that I was doing back when I was a graphic designer. Like, literally, like, it's the same stuff. And so, in the roundabout way, I basically I got to the point now where I can teach people, as I've been in the industry for over 20 years. I've been worked at Yahoo, worked at, highly recruited by basically every top tech company in the world in Silicon Valley. I could have gotten a job. I was hand gifted a job at Twitter as a UX, manager for their Twitter ads, because a gentleman that I worked with at Fox went to Twitter and actually wanted to bring me to Silicon Valley, and I was like, nah, man, I'm rooted in LA. I can't do it. But long story short, this guy from South Central who's self-taught, I felt like I've infiltrated all this UX stuff, and it's very simple. At the end of the day, UX existed before we were all confused about UX, right? UX is very simple. It's just common sense. It's basically just problem solving. It's
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to create a screen, how to create an app, and then there's the UX part. There are methods. There's several different methods to use to achieve that, and there's no right way. There's no wrong way. So, for example, like Nelson, you could build an app today, and you get to the point to where you figure out that it's user friendly, or maybe some users are, you're getting some feedback that they can't use a particular screen. You make some changes, and then you think to yourself, like, are you a UX designer? You may not call yourself a UX designer, but that's what UX design does. It's basically building screens for users and making adjustments and making sure that you're providing a good experience. And we've done that back when we were graphic designers, when we were web designers, working with like solo, like mom and pop shops,
Yeah.
building websites. It's like, so I consider all of us UX designers, even though people don't call themselves UX designers.
Yeah, well, because it makes sense, because at the end of the day, everyone is a user or human. Well, it used to be called human computer interaction. So in the end, we're all humans.
That's it.
So, and more so, we're humans who are interacting with digital screens uh because of the pandemic. Like, everyone is on a digital screen, virtual schooling, everyone's working remotely. People are doing contactless purchasing, and so everything is just digital, and it's more important now that people understand UX than ever.
So let me say this. Like,
Yeah.
the way I break down UX today is, there's, as a UX designer, looking back in my all my careers, working with every single company, being a UX designer, working with UX researchers and stuff like that. There's really two roles in this industry. There's a researcher, a UX researcher. There's someone that actually just focuses on research and goes out and do surveys and analyze data and talk to customers and so forth. And then there's the product designer.
Hmm.
So there's two roles: a UX researcher and then the product designer. And the product designer has many different titles like UX designer, UI designer, interaction designer, but they all do the same thing. And that person is what I am. It's like, and they do these four things: visual UI design, problem solving, critical thinking, and communication. Basically, and the way those break down is the visual design is self-explanatory, just us being able to design screens, right? um, Problem solving is basically just trying to figure out what am I designing, like talking with the product owners, talking with stakeholders, talking with customers, like what are we actually designing, and then trying to get to the root of their problem and then trying to solve for that by designing screens. And I have my own process for how I problem solve, which I can share. And the critical thinking part, a habit of, as you're designing and you and I are designing screens, just a habit of actually playing devil's advocate. Like, what if we did it this way? Are we hitting the right mark? Are we doing this? And so critical thinking is just really just asking questions. And
Yeah.
then the last one, communication. If you and I are in a product development organization, it's just communicating, sharing our prototypes with stakeholders, with product owners, communicating with product owners, communicating with our front end developers and stuff like that to get these products launched. At the end of the day, that's what makes up a UX designer. So that's when I say common sense UX. As you can see, I didn't mention anything about building a persona. I didn't mention anything about wireframes. I didn't mention anything about user flows, customer journey, um, empathy. All that stuff comes natural.
Well, it should be.
It should be.
Yeah. And that's the
It-
common sense part right there.
that's the common sense part, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, Nelson, like if you are building a website today, you're going to have empathy to trying to solve this your client's problem, right?
Yeah.
If they're telling you, Nelson, I can't use this website, you're going to have empathy and try to fix that.
Yeah.
You have
Well,
empathy
that's what I
for the
hope that the web designer and or agency team or web developers would think about, you know. And the sad thing is though that common sense, it's a cliched thing, but common sense is not
it
common.
it's not common. I was gonna a lot of when I say this nowadays, it is 100% true. Because, for example, I'll use this analogy. Like I'm very like, for example, I was talking to a friend about this, and common sense is basically you have to be conscious of common sense. You do. Like, for example, uh, I'll give an example. Like, I've never been super, super drunk to the point where I couldn't drive home, right? From like a bar or anything
Yeah.
like that. So it gets to a point to when if I'm a little buzzed,
Yeah.
it's common sense that says, hey, I better stop drinking because I'm going to get to a point to where I can't drive home.
Yeah.
So I have to, there's people that just go, like my friends, they ignore common sense and go, I'm going to have fun for the rest of the night.
Yeah.
I'm always conscious of common sense. So you're absolutely right. And I think I need to, I guess, put, tell people to be more conscious of their common sense.
Yeah. And I think that's where the empathy comes in, and that's what I'm trying to lead my community. And I put it straightforward on the hero of the homepage of Pixel Geek Community is to lead with empathy and honesty. And you were talking about UX researchers, um, and that's the part that I've learned in just my life and learning to be a new father. You know,
Hmm.
listening listening skills is hard to keep your mouth shut because talking is easy, giving solutions is easy, but shutting that all off and just listening. How I learned that was when my when my wife we were learning how to take care of this newborn, never being parents before, and there's so many stresses that come along with that. And I've learned that I'm giving too many solutions of like, oh, why don't we just do this? Why don't you do this? Rather than just listen. don't give solutions. And that whole research part and the whole empathy, I think that's very important.
And that's to add to that. That's where I come in, and I like to continue to preach. Like when I say common sense, and when anybody hears my my videos or anything that I say, though I do say it with conviction, like I believe these things, but I'm never saying it to the point to where I feel like this is the only way. Because like common sense to tell you, I focus on the core stuff, the very core. Like there's a handful of things. Like if somebody picks up and uses Webflow today,
Mhm.
like I consider myself very proficient at Webflow, but I only know a handful of things. But those handful of things allows me to produce any type of responsive site and take any design and mimic those right in Webflow and build those. But those are the essentials.
Yeah.
So long story short is everything is I focus on the essentials and not trying to be always right and be open and just learning. So as you mentioned, listening, if I go through a meeting where I'm thinking that I already know the solution to that, one day I might go back and say maybe I should listen more, and so it's not like I'm saying I should not ever listen, I should do what I'm thinking. So it's all common sense. It's all just learning as you go. There's multiple ways to navigate and do things and come to the end result. And it's just learning as you go, and just making sure these core, you focus on, maybe you have some core pillars, some core essential things, and then I call it the long tail. There are a lot of things that we can learn as we go and through different experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. So one question that throughout your whole career, um maybe something that my community can learn from you real quickly is, what is the most common mistake that you see still happening today in UX?
Great question. I think the most common mistake is the fact that there is still a core of people, UX professionals, that think UX should be done a certain way,
Like there's only one way.
that there's only one way.
Oh,
That you'll hear, I'll see videos of UX designers that spent their maybe the last 5+ years in UX, and maybe they badmouth a graphic designer or somebody that considers themselves a UX designer, but they're more focused on visuals and stuff like that, right?
yeah.
And in this whole thing, UX designers have a friction with someone that may not have the same, education as them in terms of learning, like let's say psychology or human computer interaction or something like that, right?
Mhm.
And so I feel that's a consistent problem in this industry that continues to happen over and over again, to the point to where it actually hurts people from landing jobs. Capable designers that could learn something the way I'm speaking and the way I'm teaching could definitely do the job as a UX designer, but because these gatekeepers and these people feel a certain way that you should be and act as a UX designer, they may not think that you're capable of doing that work. And so you apply to a job or a
Yeah.
UX design job, and they feel like, okay, you don't have this on your portfolio. You don't really, say these things. I'm not saying that they say that, but I've seen it all out there where you don't have the case studies, the flow charts, the user flows, the user personas. You're not showing your process enough. And so they want UX designers to do a certain thing rather than just be just you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
there's no
just
right
care
way.
for the human.
Care for the human. So I'll give you another point. I'm big on visual design, like
Okay.
visual UI design. I think it's the core pillar that every designer should focus on. Just produce good visual designs and you would propel your value, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, Nelson, if you and I are building an app, we're trying to build a beautiful app to get out there. Now, there's going to be a lot of methods and thinking going on to what's involved in this app, but at the end of the day, we're designing beautiful stuff, you
Yeah.
know and that's in any organization. I don't care if you're in Facebook, Netflix,
Yeah.
Google. The goal is to build a beautiful app, and that requires design, that requires a lot of stuff, you
Yeah.
know Yeah, of course it requires empathy and critical thinking and problem solving, but that just comes natural. That's a part of the process.
Yeah.
So I always say, like, I look at design first because it's a core thing. UX folks, like these gatekeepers, they look at, how do you think from a psychological standpoint? Do you know what cognitive load means? Do you know, this and that? And I'm thinking, what the heck is cognitive load? You mean like when somebody comes to a page and they're super busy? I mean, they don't know where to go. I'm like, we've been doing that since web design 101.
Yeah.
Have a strong call to action, not clutter the site, keep things simple. It's like, when I learned that, I was like puzzled. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I'm like, so you went to school to learn that? I'm like, this stuff that I was doing from day one, and
Yeah.
I'm like, anyway, so
Yeah.
now I can talk about that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you have the experience, and the knowledge to actually speak out about it. Yeah, yeah. I never thought about that. How it's the gatekeepers who are stopping some talented people from getting into the door, getting their first step into their career when they really, really, truly want to help the UX for an everyday user for a certain site or app or company. Um, Now,
Yeah.
speaking of your career, one of the questions I always like to bring to my community whenever I have a guest is learning from failures. Hence, why I always like have the weekly post of Failure Fridays. Um, Being in your career for over 20, 25, 25.
Yeah, 20 plus, I think. Yeah. I think I'm 45. My first job was when I was 22. So, like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
You've
My first,
seen the birth of the internet and
yeah. Yeah, when I left college, it was when I graduated high school, the internet was just now starting, and I went to college for a couple years, CSUN, and I kind of dropped out, obviously, and I started working at a place called Circuit City. I don't know if you remember Circuit City.
nice.
You remember Circuit City, and
Yeah.
then I worked for, and I had my first real job was a customer service job for a tech company, 9 to 5, and then that was when I was 22. And so a couple years after that, I became their webmaster, and then that was technically my start in web design.
Oh,
But I was
nice.
doing it on the side even before then, even before the customer service thing. I was like, you remember when you would do Dreamweaver and you would have those cutout gifs of white gifs all over the place? Like you would chop your entire
Because
design
of
up
fireworks.
because of fireworks. And so you would chop it all up and you would have this blank white space, and it was an actual GIF. That was me designing my websites back then.
Rest in peace, Macromedia.
But so yeah, but 20 plus years. So go ahead with your
That's awesome. So, like, I want to know, like, has there during what was your lowest part of your career, like the lowest point in your career, and how did you find your way back out, and what did you learn from that experience?
good question. I mean, probably the lowest point was, but it came quickly. But there's some other low points in terms of like moments, and I'll explain. So when I was at Yahoo, I was there for a year and a half, and then they cut the entire division. They gave us like a few months to. They said we're basically gonna lay everybody off, and so that was the first time I've ever been laid off, or at least been approached with being scared. My kids were young. I'm like the main person, that has the income. My wife was just now starting her real estate business. Um, but long story short is I got out of that just by hitting the ground running and like applying to different jobs, which I ended up getting a job pretty quick. But so that was my first low point. Secondly, was when I realized was sometimes you start getting rejected from certain jobs. Like when you apply and you think, oh, you know what, I'm really good at what I do. And when you start getting rejected, you start like you start questioning, like you don't question your abilities, but you're like, damn, I'm not as invincible as I thought.
Yeah.
And so there's some times where I would got rejected, and I had to overcome that punch in the gut. Like here I am, this person. Everybody loves me on YouTube. Everybody loves the things that I say, and have this job, who loves me or whatever, and I'm applying to this job and I get rejected. Long story short, I'm I'm big on the fact that I feel that everybody is where they need to be in this point in their life, in a sense where all these things aren't failures, they're learning experiences. Like, why did I want that job? Am I more successful even without this particular job? And the reason, the answer was yes. There's a lot of things that we sort of like, we take these little failures and these small things and we make them big. And we like, you have to kind of pivot that and look at all the benefits you currently have. Super blessed, kids, my wife's business taking off, my side business taking off, my business, I still have a job, but I was like looking at this negative at this thing is, and like it was like a punch in the gut. Long story short, um I overcome that just by changing my mind, obviously, to something that's negative and focus on the positive. And once you do that, it takes time to kind of master that because we all have down moments, but that's how I ultimately overcome any obstacles. Now I'm just always positive, always positive, always positive, and I don't look to any failure as or anything that might be negative as a failure. It's always a learning experience.
Yeah.
It's not a what did somebody say? It's not a loss, it's a lesson. That's
Yeah.
what a friend of mine told me. So that's how I approach everything today.
Yeah. One thing I do know about the Webflow recruiting team and the team in general is that if you do apply to a job at Webflow and you do get rejected, you can ask for feedback. A lot of employers don't do that. They just like, okay, you're rejected, peace out. But like I've learned from I know that from my direct boss. Uh he's open to giving feedback like, oh, okay, thanks for responding. I know um we didn't take you in for the next round but of interviews, but I'm happy to share with you what you can improve on. And so learn, like you're saying, learning experience. Every rejection letter, learn from it. And I think that goes down to UX and web design in general. You mess up on a button, you mess up on a design, you have a client who gets mad at you or something because, I don't know, God forbid, you took their site down by accident. What can you learn from each of these moments? So yeah, and
No,
go ahead.
no, what I was gonna say is like to add to that is like also when you're and when there's a rejection that comes, sometimes it's not really always about your ability. It could just be like it wasn't the right fit, it wasn't the right chemistry. It could be something totally out of your control,
Yeah.
that you might take personal, but it shouldn't be. You should just take it as, hey, that wasn't meant to be. It's not right. This is where I need to be in life. Maybe there's something else, out there for me.
Yeah, there's so many variables when it comes to a job posting that you'll never understand. There's timing, the skill set. It's not about you, so
Salary, you can be overpriced,
yeah.
and whatever.
At the end of the day, we're all just humans, and even the people on the other side of the person who's interviewing you also has to meet all these criteria, and they're rooting for everyone. I know that Ben, he roots for all of the applicants, and I know he said to me like, I wish I can just help them all, and that's how the Webflow customer support teams. We want to help as many people as possible, and then it's just sad to throw out a rejection letter, but like there's just so many variables. But thank you for sharing that, like, positive mindset. It's tough, especially this year. You know, and going back into UX, uh, with everyone having to learn and work virtually because of the pandemic, um, everyone is realizing how bad the UX is for many important apps that we need to use. If you had a magic wand to fix most of it, what would you fix and how?
In apps in particular, or just in a particular app, or
You can choose. This is a very broad question. It's an open question. One is, if you want an example. One is Zoom. It's now huge, used everywhere, and it's confusing.
yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of stuff. I mean, heck, if we wanted to go into each one of these apps, I mean, yeah, definitely. But the thing is, what I would my it all comes back to this. is there's no one right way, right? A lot of things is subjective. You could say it's kind of confusing. I could say it seems pretty easy, right?
Hmm.
I think the one thing that I would fix, I'm always intrigued by amazing apps and teams that like it takes a team to build a really good app.
Yeah.
It doesn't just take one person looking at an app and going, it takes a team. So I'm always inspired by apps that are really well done. Like for example, my number one app that I really love is Waze. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And Waze, the
The
directional,
yeah.
and I when that came out years back, I was always I marveled at the fact that they use these cartoony things, and but the experience for me, it felt different than the Google Maps or Apple Maps, where Apple Map feels more like, I like to use the term, like the scientific calculator versus the regular calculator, something that's very complex versus something that's simple. So I always marvel at the fact that what did they do? Why is it psychologically? Why does it feel better to me? Is it the cartoony feel? Is it the whatever, the not so serious sort of like fonts or around the court? I don't know, but I always marvel at those things and try to dig deep into those types of apps that are, I feel, naturally well done. I think if we go into any app, we'll always find something that's wrong, right? like I mean, look at YouTube today, right? We're on YouTube, and YouTube I go into their apps and it's like crappy. I couldn't even figure out how to ask for my silver button, my 100. It took me like
Oh,
20 minutes.
did you, did you get it yet?
I finally got it, but I had to search. I had to search around, and the UX is so bad. I had to go on Google, search for how do I get it. I finally found the customer service support link at the very bottom,
Uh,
clicked on it, emailed somebody or had a chat with somebody that responded to me and was like, "Oh, okay, let me forward your email on." And so it took a couple of days for them to respond back to me and were like, "We reviewed your site or your channel, and now we're going to send this out to you." And I'm thinking like, you guys, it couldn't make that simple. Long story short, YouTube is like the number one app out there for videos and everything. And guess what? There's some bad experiences in it. Long story short, there are horrible experiences in all different places. There's no right and wrong. It's just a matter of, as a good UX designer, it's like you're putting forth something, Zoom is putting out something, these apps are putting out something, and then they just need to continue to learn. Like you said, listen. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like just listening. Like Webflow needs to listen. And obviously they have a direction of where they're going, but the more they listen to their audience, and then they'll make those adjustments along the way,
Yeah.
you know.
All right. Awesome. All right, I'm gonna open up the chat, or I mean, open up the questions for the live chat, and we already got a couple. So here we go. 20G Creative. Oh, it's not a question. It's a graphic designers are the best web designers. Shots fired. And also, he says those rejections make you rock. Always look at the positive. True mindset is key. Uh, AAKREIT says it's insights. Most companies will try to depend on data to justify or quantify human behavior, maybe too dependent. Any comments on that one?
Yeah, I mean, data is key. A lot of people, I won't argue with that. Data is key. You can learn a lot about data, right? And how to make adjustments to your app and to experiences and stuff like that. So it takes a combination of both, the data and intuition. At the end of the day, you put forth your best guess, even with data. You if data shows something and you make a decision to go in a certain route based on the data, you're truthfully putting out your best guess, even with that level of beyond reasonable doubt. You can consider that scientific, so to speak, but um at the end of the day, you're still putting out your best guess. And then as a UX designer, it's all about listening, right? It's just common sense. You put forth your best guess. There's no right, there's no there's no only one right way. Basically, there could
Yeah.
be right ways, but there could be several. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I like to keep that in mind.
Yeah. The world is too big for just one way. I mean, that's why there's multiple burger chains. There's multiple ways to cook. There's maybe I'm just getting hungry. Next one. Brian is saying, I guess the key is not to only understand your client's needs, but their client's needs and design from that perspective. Yeah, I agree. Um, Liu Bove says, Mike, thank you for teaching and sharing. Thank you for opening doors for senior graphic designers and web designers to UX visual design for people like me. I love your class. It is magic. Yeah. All right. Now for we got three questions for you, and you still have time for more. How much time do you have?
I'm here all day morning. Yep, we're
Okay.
good.
All right. We'll be here till 7 p.m. Pacific. No, just kidding.
Nah, just do it. I love this stuff. I love answering questions too.
Same here. Same
Mhm.
here. Jeremy is asking, since humans may have different intuitions and needs, how do you determine designs? Wouldn't there be many competing personas that may have conflicting needs? Like, how do you quantify psychology and intuition? Mm,
Simple. I keep everything simple. I don't even go deep into the psychology of people liking different things. That could be the case, but I'll look at the way I look at things. I look at web standards, and I follow a principle. Don't make me think. So, for example, if
mm,
I'm building an app today, I think we would all agree, if people like our grandmother and mothers and they use Facebook, right?
yeah.
My mom is even using Instagram slowly. People, I noticed that, obviously my mom wouldn't use Twitter, and a lot of people that I interact with don't really understand Twitter and things like that. But we can look to tools that people use today, and we can say, using Facebook, there's a lot of standards in Facebook, right?
Hmm.
And meaning, like, I'll keep it basic. Like, obviously, the hamburger menu is
Yeah.
there, and maybe the search button is at the top. And those type of standards that we see across the webs, if when we build out an app, if you just use that common sense approach of using standards that may exist today across different personas,
Hmm.
you will, with a high degree of certainty, know that this is a really strong best guess. You know what I mean? Whereas if you're building something like so complex, like Webflow, obviously when you get deep into the tools that are hidden and how designers and developers use these tools, obviously there's more learning there. There's obviously a stronger need to kind of do some user testing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
When you get to that level of complexity,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that we do naturally because the web has been around for 10 plus years. You just pick these things up, like when we click on a button, or like when we click on a button that says sign up, right?
Yeah.
If a button says sign up or register, just a button,
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody assumes when I click this button, I'm going to get taken to another page that has some form with the name or email. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Some form of that.
Yeah.
That's an assumption. And then so you could just go down the list. There's like thousands of assumptions that we know that people assume when they click a certain thing, right?
Yeah.
So just knowing that as common sense, when you're taking that into account as a designer, you can kind of limit all the complexities of going deep into psychology, deep into everyone's thinking, and just start with a strong, solid foundation that you can build off of.
Yeah.
You know, like for example, if we're designing a car today,
Okay.
we know that we're not the steering wheel, if in the United States, will be on the left hand side. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's going to be four wheels. We're not going to try to make the steering wheel in the center of the car. We know everyone's used to doing it this way,
Yeah.
right? So you stick with those things. Obviously you can add essentials and stuff, like, I know you're a fan of Elon Musk and all that stuff, and he builds on top of that stuff, but the car is really the core thing is the same.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go down that route, I mean, the whole user experience whenever I look at a Tesla, and like it just makes sense. And I did a whole video um about the Model 3 and the interior of it compared to legacy car interiors and the new cars that those legacy car makers are still making. Steve Jobs removed physical buttons from the mobile phone. Steve Jobs did not make the first smartphone. It was Nokia, it was Sony, it was all the BlackBerry, and they all have physical keyboards, physical buttons. And he said, remove all that. And I feel like that's the same thing that's happening in the car industry, and how the legacy uh, car makers are still not understanding. They want to add as many buttons as possible, but you even look at his spaceship, the Dragon, versus the space shuttle. There's hardly any buttons. So like you keep saying, keep making it more simple, making it more simple, because it'll help the user experience. Yeah.
To add to that, we could I'll add to that and say like this, like I'm a very simple, basic person, but that's why every good product requires a team because you need innovative thinkers. Not we don't all have to be innovative thinkers. Like Elon Musk is a very innovative thinker, but I'm sure along the way with partners and things like that, folks were more practical. He kind of pushed the boundaries. So even like as I grow, I know I'm conscious of the fact that I like to play things safe, but I love the idea of other people on the team kind of pushing the boundaries.
Yeah.
But we don't all have to be innovative because then we're missing this foundational piece. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We need different parts of this Avengers thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Like,
that comes together.
if you're the person who's plotting the course, you're like, okay, let's go there. You still need someone to be like, okay, but we need to make sure that we know where we're starting from. We are here, but your mind is all the way over there. So let's connect the two. I get it. I get it. Awesome.
Exactly.
All right, next question from Louis Bove. Hopefully, I'm saying your name right. Mike, what should we have in a UI UX visual portfolio to land a job? Can you give us some examples? Um, I don't know if we can show your screen, or if you want to like throw some links over in. I'm not gonna
Or
do this.
I could share my screen,
Uh,
or I don't know if you can do that.
Yeah, I'm scared it might break my stream setup.
No
You
worries.
can just throw some links in the live chat, and then make sure to replace the .com with like the words .com.
Well,
But
yeah,
like if you have any examples, or we can
but
just give them
but
later.
I'll give them later, but I'll explain. So here's how I look at things, and this is the honest truth. There'll be gatekeepers that so basically to keep it very simple, you need good strong designs of apps. And so for example, if you have a website that has, let's just say you have 20 strong, you don't have to have 20, but you can have one to start with. But hypothetically, if you had 20 strong visual design mock-ups and apps showing 1 to 8 screens of different states on your portfolio, let's say you had 20 of those. I don't think there is a recruiter or hiring manager in this world that would not stop and look at your stuff if it's really strong visual design, that wouldn't want to at least get you on the phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you were hiring and they came across your resume and you were available. So that's just basic. Have good strong visual designs. Now, to add to that, as a UX designer, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of gatekeepers that wants UX designers to look like UX designers. So what I tell people is you might have to dress it up. You might have to add some flow charts on there, show some descriptions of some whiteboarding that you did to come up with those designs. Show some sticky notes. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like Nelson, to be honest with you, how we come up with a design, these UX or these UX gatekeepers, they want to see that stuff. But to be honest with you, I don't care if you show me an amazing design and you have 20 things on your portfolio, I already assume you kind of know how to critically think, that you
Yeah.
have empathy, that
Yeah.
you have problem solving. But to her to your question is if you package what I'm saying in your portfolio and show it in case studies, show it however you want, that's what UX folks want to see. They want to see design, but your thought process. So I don't want like going into like this is the right portfolio. There's no one right way, but however you want to package that is up to you. But the more they see of your thought process and your visual design skills, that is what basically a good strong portfolio should be made of.
Cool. We got one from Pablo. Question for Mike. What do you do if the data you collect from a survey slash interview doesn't match with your common sense?
You make adjustments. Common sense will tell you, hey, figure that out. Ask questions. You critically think. Like, so basically, critically thinking, in my point of view, is playing devil's advocate. So I'm if I was thinking one way and the data showed me another way, common sense should tell me, oh wait, I might have been off. So let me look at this data. And so you basically have to vet that data. An example is, there like there's a lot of variables of that data. For example, like that's why Steve Jobs really, there's a big thing where he didn't do a lot of user testing, because user testing, he did it internally with his team. Like
Okay.
they wanted to go in a direction. They knew that we wanted to go in this direction, but if they had thrown out and made decisions based on the data of a test, they
Yeah.
probably wouldn't have gone that route.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like they'll say, like there's an old saying, if people would have been tested back in the day, they would have asked for strong or faster horses
Yeah. Yeah.
rather than a car, right, with an
Yeah.
engine. So that is a 100% just facts. It's just common sense. Like, yeah, so the data could say one thing and could be 100% right, but in context of what you're trying to do, does it make sense? Is
Yeah.
it applying to what you do? So like I hear it a lot. Like even like in doing building day-to-day stuff, I'll have like 7 product owners or 7 clients. Like I was building this medical app, and they're all like saying, well, we didn't want this one approach, or we didn't want this long thing. But I'm thinking in my mind, is if we didn't ask them, I guarantee you they would have used it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
It,
if they had a choice to tell you what they liked or didn't, they're going to tell you one way.
yeah. I
You know what I
guess
mean?
it's the whole like whenever Apple removes something to streamline things. Like I remember when they removed the CD drive, and I'm like, why would you do that? And then like physical media is like going out the door now. Like to install things is over the internet now. Makes sense. And then when people made fun of Apple for using courage to remove the headphone jack, and people are like, no, we need that. And then now it's like, oh yeah, wireless headphones. That's like the thing, you know?
Yeah, they had
Um,
a. I mean, both sides are right, but this company decided to do something because they had a strategy for it,
yeah,
and they could. They're not saying that they're using data. They're just that data didn't apply in the context of what they're trying to do.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, data says one thing, but again, to the point of the horse, that people just want faster horses.
Hmm.
Um. All right. Let's see here. Any other questions? Here's a feedback from Timothy. My blacksmith instructor told me years ago there are no wrong ways to blacksmith, just a lot of right ways. Huh. Yeah. And I guess this might be the last one from Isaac. Good afternoon. Could you explain new onboarding process for new clients, and is it necessary? Ooh, this is very broad. I don't know if you want to take this. Maybe I can take it on a later stream, but do you want to take it? You don't have to.
I mean, you if you have thoughts on that, I mean, it's kind of a broad.
Yeah.
It,
Uh,
it's it, it's very specific. There's.
yeah. I mean, it depends on what type of app or website you're trying to create, the type of people you're trying to bring into the process. I mean, every time you install an app, every time you sign up for a new web app, that's the first time user experience. I know there's a whole team at Webflow that focuses just on that because looking at the data and just watching user experience interviews, people get confused about Webflow. Yeah, there's a whole rabbit hole of buttons, and then you learn one thing, and then there's even more buttons. So how do you put web design in a box and make it easy, very relative word, easy enough to understand? So yeah, maybe we'll get into that later. Okay, one more question from Jeremy. How do you balance making things better with UX UI to existing products and not making users upset with having to learn the new designs? Ooh, yeah. I'd love to know your answer.
Um, the way I approach it is I never change things. I enhance things visually until I know that there are pain points within that particular app. So when I go into when I have a lot of experience redesigning or designing legacy apps. Like if I was to design Webflow right now, um, I wouldn't change things because I know common sense that there's thousands and hundreds of thousands of users that like things this way or could like things this way until and then what happens is there's a level of what I call low hanging fruit.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is naturally, um, if there are things that I can add to an experience without affecting anything, just enhancing it, um, those that's what I call low hanging fruit. And I'll give you an example. Um, at ADP, we had a situation where the users could not find the print button,
Hmm.
right? And it was hidden behind another actionable item or icon. And it was common sense to me. I say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to pull these icons out and put them at the top.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And so what happens is when users come to that site, if they start scouring for 30 seconds, they see this little print option over here.
Yeah.
Now it's not hidden.
Yeah.
I've just made that experience better without actually moving anything. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. You just
Like
made it more.
you could there's low hanging fruit stuff. Like it's very easy to fix this without disrupting any of the experience.
Yeah.
So if you take just that one example, there could be maybe 20 of those throughout the app
Yeah.
that you and your team could make adjustments to, and that's what I call like enhancing an app without fully changing it. Now you can get to the point where you do have to make changes. Like Facebook is coming out with a new version, and they tell
Again?
you, yeah, right, and they tell you you got 48 hours or you have a week to do this. You have the classic version, now you have this new version. That's they're giving you a chance to try both, right? Because
Yeah.
with the new version, once they switch over completely, obviously everyone's going to be all pissed off, like, where do I find this, where do I find that, and so it's going to take some time. But with that experience, you have new designs, and you put that out there, and you give people time to kind of play with those, and then you eventually slowly migrate over.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you have those onboarding videos, right? Or
Yeah.
little widgets to say this is what you find with the new stuff,
Yeah, I see that everywhere now. Even Webflow has it where it's like it dims the whole app except for the one thing they want to focus on and explain with a tooltip or a video.
Yep.
Yeah, makes sense. Great question, everyone. And if you have extra questions for Mike, his YouTube channel, he streams often. How often do you stream?
I stream like twice a week. Like now I'm doing it on Tuesdays, and then I do one on Thursdays.
Okay.
I do a meetup on Thursdays where I do a Zoom meetup, but on Tuesdays I do a YouTube stream.
Okay.
I'm doing that now consistently. So
Awesome. If you haven't done so, subscribe. It is so much value in his channel, so much experience. He's been through it all and more. So, very, very thankful you took the time out of your Saturday. Oh no, my echo is back. Oh no. Let me see if I can fix it one more time. Let me work. Well, but anyways, thank you so much, Mike, for being here. Uh, Colleen, if you can drop his links in the live chat, and I'll also have it in the YouTube description. You rock. Thank you for your knowledge, and um, we're doing cross collaboration, so I'll be on your stream. I think the 19th.
I think this upcoming week on Thursday we'll
Yeah.
talk. Yeah, this is cool. So basically, it's a Zoom meetup. We'll have about 50 people on Zoom. You and I will be talking like this for the first 30 minutes, and then people will show their faces and ask questions. It's pretty dope. It's good.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, and also I wanted to leave with one more thing about UX before you go.
Hmm.
Is I started to think more about UX after binge watching with my wife Kitchen Nightmares, the UK version with
Okay.
Chef Ramsay, and it it made sense. And now I look at restaurants differently. So you have this food. All you need to source that food. That's actually your content of your website. So if the food sucks, you can't expect anyone down the line, all the way to the table of the customer, to eat it. You can dress it up however you want, but it's still going to taste bad. So if it's bad content for the beginning, bad food, no. But then you go to the kitchen, and if all the tools are scattered everywhere and no one knows what they're doing, there's too many chefs, there's not enough line cooks, then that whole user experience, or even dirty tools, nothing's kept, it's a bad user experience for them. So your food's going to come out super slow. And then the dining area, which is your front end design, has to look good. You have to have clear signage. Where's the restroom? I want to make sure that I know where to find it. And then lastly, the speed of the wait staff, basically the server speed, the load speed of your apps or websites. If it's coming out slow, you're going to be like, I'm going to bounce. So your bounce rate goes. So that's all of that from Kitchen Nightmares was like, it makes sense. I like to think about food.
One thing I'll add to that, like wrap up, is like, UX design, UX before it was called UX existed before, like back in the 80s, 70s, like the early 1900s, like back in the days. It's just designing things, right? And changing it was, I mean, think about it. Anytime they started building stuff and where people needed to use something, that was experience. That was user experience was involved in that particular thing. We just call it UX. We think of it different because that's why it's so confusing. People are like, is it different than what people did back in the day to build bridges? I don't know. So UX is just UX always existed. We
Yeah.
just kind of make it so complex. One thing I'll add to, and we'll talk about this probably on my podcast, is like I feel like I'm big. I say this analogy. Everybody needs an island. Okay, I'll end with this. Every person watching this needs an island, and what I mean by that is they need a full-time job. But I think on that job, everybody should do a side hustle, and I think Webflow is the perfect segue to use a side hustle to build websites, freelance, and also I have this big thing where I tell people everyone should focus and try to take on this project of designing an application, a SaaS product, or some type of app. And it's for many different purposes. One, it's a great project for you to take on just for your portfolio. You can design it, and then you can learn Webflow building it. And then guess what? One day it could maybe turn into a real thing. And if it doesn't, you've now used it to leverage to land jobs for your portfolio. You use it to leverage to learn Webflow, how to build apps that will add value to your skill set. There's a win-win situation for everything. So I always say, like, look at what you're doing. And myself, Nelson, we have full-time jobs, but that's our island. We're not just swimming in the ocean doing our own thing. And then that island allows us to branch out and test the waters and build our brand, build different things. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So all this stuff that we're talking about, UX, Webflow, mindset, all this stuff is part of like what I always think about is like we all need that job initially just to have that breathing room and to test the waters. But these tools like Webflow and then UX abilities and things like that, you can leverage that to expand and do a lot more with it.
Thank you. Thank you. So much insight. Thank you everyone who posted questions in the live chat. I'll let you go about your day. I will see you Thursday in that Zoom call. Love to meet. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thanks,
And
Nelson.
enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you, Nelson, so much. We'll talk soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Um,
That
that
was
was
fun.
fun. Okay, the echo should be gone now. I'm still learning audio stuff. I gotta figure. I ah, but thank you for everyone for hanging in there. Now, second part of the stream. Uh, yeah, Webflow questions. So we'll just do just live Webflow support or web design questions. If you're new to my channel, thank you so much for subscribing or at least being here. And let's see here. Oh, a couple of questions. And so this is the part where, like, if you have questions about using Webflow, and I'll try to do a live demo of how to do what you're trying to figure out. And yeah, let's go through it. And thanks again to Mike. It was awesome. Lot of good knowledge. Take that in. That in. Timothy, echo or not, still glad to be here. Joseph, stuff, Isaac, welcome. Timothy's asking, I have a UX question. Should nav bars be sticky or scroll like anything else? Um, Everyone reads websites in F formation. Top left to right. Unless it's a language where you read right to left. But usually nav bars are at the top. Find everything like your table of contents of a book always with you. So I say keep it sticky, keep it at the top, keep it fixed or sticky as you scroll. Always be. Uh oh, another one from Timothy. Question if you have time. Yes, I have time right now. Have you ever run into a sticky element that stops working even if the position value has uh if you want to drop your link without the .com live chat, maybe we can go through it together right now. Um Oh, another one from Timothy. Save all of your what I've learned pro tip, save all of your elements on a separate page. I accidentally deleted a whole bunch of work and had to rebuild. No real harm done, but could have been avoided. Yeah, that's a good point. Putting all your components in a separate page, or Command Shift S to create a manual backup side of web, right? Uh, from Jeremy, I've heard criticism of Webflow for putting out very bloated code. Is it able to be modified, or is that the job of a front end developer? Most of the negative comments are on. Yeah, great question. Webflow does not put out bloated code. However, however, it is up to the designer slash developer slash front end to make their structure, their element structure, their DOM, as clean as possible. Webflow can only do so much. It's kind of like any other tool out there. It can only do so much to streamline and make things and give you guardrails to make things as clean as possible. But if you don't understand the basic concepts, fundamentals of web design, or whatever you're working with, not going to come out nice. Imagine being a graphic designer and not learning about typography, layout, imagery, lighting, um, um, color theory. Imagine not understanding those concepts, fundamentals, and just saying, I'm going to do whatever I want inside of Figma, Photoshop, or whatever, and just bleh. The end product is not going to make sense because, again, there's always a question of why did you put this pixel over here? Why did you put this button on this web page here? Make it that color. Why? If you can't answer the whys, then it's not going to be good. So Webflow does create clean code, but if you're just using it and not understanding the fundamentals of HTML and CSS, then that code could become bloated, right? Um, and yeah, most negative comments are on Instagram ads. To me, if you don't have haters, you're not trying hard enough. If you have only 100% great comments about your tool, your website, then something's wrong. Something's wrong because Nothing's that possible. Nothing in this world, no one in this world is perfect. But there is a thing that I believe in imperfectly. All right. Um, Brian saying noob to workflow. I'm thinking Webflow. I keep hearing the add divs in certain situations, Webflow University vids, but have heard that is not good. Any thoughts about I'm coming from WordPress and Elementor and just learning at the a lot of info that too many divs causes bloat. Yeah, too many divs can cause bloat, but again, if you're adding divs left and right for no reason, then they're- make it more simple. Isaac is saying, "Good afternoon. Could you explain new onboarding process?" Oh, okay. Pablo, hey Nelson, can you add transitions and easing to the new text clipping? It is not listed transitions. I don't think you can. Yeah, I don't. I don't think you can do transition. Go into yeah. Go my dashboard. Quick. Let me spin up a new website. Have a URL. Name it whatever you want it to. Up to you. Let's try. Let's take a journey together. Could add a section. Could then but everything needs a reason. So, let's make this container gradient. Something like that. Here we have heading. We'll now text clipping. This is what audio is breaking up. Sorry, I'll get closer to the mic. Uh, let's do the text clipping. So this is what we're talking about right here. That no. All right, am I doing this wrong? Content. Guess I'm doing it wrong. This one. Oh, okay. There we go. Background to text. So, what would you want to do with this? So, are you saying on hover we do the text clipping? So, like this? Yeah. I don't think it's possible to do that. Yeah. In the transitions, there is no like text clipping thing. Even if we used all properties down here, which we tell people not to use in case they really, really need to use it. But yeah, that's not gonna work. Yeah, so you can't do that. But trying to think what fun things you can do. Like, can you move the gradient? Wonder. Audio's off and on. I'll have to fix this. I am sorry, everyone. Here's that. I think. Hello, hello. There's probably a noise gate or something that put. Hello, 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 hello. Okay, that's better. Sorry about that. Fixed it. Live stream. Yay. Is that better? That should be better. Okay. So we learned that we can't do that. All right. Next question. Um. Okay. All right. From Joseph Bates, is there a way or suggested way to add comments to the code? It would be great if these were visible in the navigator, perhaps in a different color. In your HTML code, um, yeah, I'm trying to think. What would you need it for? Um, if you're trying to componentize stuff, I think that's where symbols comes in. If you're trying to componentize stuff, and in the Webflow World Tour, they've announced that they're making more uh, features to make symbols more components like, so that you can design one component and then it can be used as many times as you want for different types of data. But yeah, get a question from Fabian. How do you find clients for web design work? I've learned Webflow quite well, but struggling to find clients. Yeah, that's a great question. There's no, to me, I like to do things as honest as possible. I don't like to market. What I do is just show my honesty and show that I'm learning by using YouTube as a platform. And people email me through, or no, actually DM me on Instagram or Twitter, or email me and ask, "Hey, I saw your YouTube channel. Do you have time for a project?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then there's some times when people on Twitter are like, "Hey, I'm looking for a Webflow developer," and you just contact them. But more importantly, what you can do to get into the door is build for an organization. Like if you're just starting out, a nonprofit needs a website. You know, they need their website rebuilt. Maybe a church or a kids sporting group or something like that. There's organizations there that have websites that are getting old, and that's the beauty of technology. Things always need to get refreshed. There's probably a restaurant that needs help. You know, you can ask to do their website. I personally don't cold email or cold call, but if there's a nonprofit that you can help and say, "Hey, I want to help redo your website," if they're okay with it, maybe that's one way through the door. But just help people. That's what I've been doing. Just help people with honesty, and you know, word of mouth marketing is still the best, because someone in that organization is going to say, "Wow, that's a cool new website. Who did it?" Oh, who asked this question? Yeah, Fabian did this website. You should contact him. And it's like, okay, yeah. And then it just goes from one to another to another. So yeah. And Webflow does, on the Webflow University, there is a freelancer course that actually goes into this more, like how to cold email or how to do research on clients that you would want to reach out to. So check that out. But when it comes to starting a career, I only know one way, and it's not, I don't think it's the best way, but I just started building for the love of it. Hey, do you need a website? Like, I want to build it. I know that Ran Segal, he was doing a thing on his YouTube channel for a little bit where he would just redesign sites without, asking the people. And then when he was done with that, he would show his YouTube video to everyone saying, "Hey, here's the current site and here's why and how I redesigned it, and then he would bring it to that person, and I don't know if he made some money off of it or something when he gave him the site, but you know, just build and learn. So good luck with that, Fabian. uh Report back on the Pixel Geek community website and let us know. Yeah, keep chatting on the chat board. Yeah, let's see here. Joseph Bates on the adding comments. If I come back 2 years later and need to fix or change something, timings can get complex. I mean, you can add a div inside of Webflow, or and then put a text box inside of it and do display none. Maybe that's one way to add comments. It's not the best way. I mean, you can do HTML embeds and add an HTML comment in there, but again, I don't think that's the best way. Yeah. But maybe one day, Webflow will have. Oh, actually, maybe that's a thing that'll happen in the future of Webflow, because I know that one UX or one researcher, security researcher, her name's Jane. She called out the team and found that the Webflow team is working on an annotations feature where people can comment, click on an element, and then leave a comment on it. And so yeah, the team is working on that. When will it come out? I never have dates, and I'll never share dates. But maybe that'll be a thing where you can add an annotation for yourself. Like, hey, this is what this element is meant to do. So, future Joseph, here you go. Here's the information you need. Yeah. I think, is that about it? I got all the questions answered. All right, not much Webflow stuff today. That's fine. We learned a lot about UX, and yeah, I hope you all had some good value from Mike being here. He's a wonderful person, and always sharing positivity. And before the stream, I was just chatting up with him, and we feel like we're in the same page when it comes to technology and positivity, because it's like there's so much negativity out there, and if you just throw out positivity, the right people will listen. And speaking of listening, I think that's the most important thing we can learn from today. Listen more, talk less, and that's how better UX comes about. And it takes a team. There was this one video that I'm reminded of from Vox. So just talking about door handles, all right? And it made me think about UX even more after that video. I'm like, whoa, that makes sense. So if you ever come across a door and the handle is horizontal, without even thinking, your first notion will be to push it open. If a door handle is vertical, your first notion is going to be to pull it. Now, then there's these interior designers or architects or architect people who will make doors that have both sides of the door will have a vertical handle, or both sides of the door will have a horizontal handle, but yet the door can only go one way. So have you ever come to a point where a door has a vertical handle and you pull it, but it's meant to be pushed? It's not you, it's the designer of that door, and vice versa. If you ever notice a door with just a flat metal plate on it, that means push, and you're not even thinking about it. You're like, oh, okay, this is push. You didn't even think about that. So UX to me is everywhere. It's not just on digital screens, it's physically everywhere, because you are a user, you are a human, and you are experiencing life. If there's anything that makes you go, man, I wish that was a little bit easier, then there can be a team, or you can start a new idea to make that process easier. uh, it goes to that one thing that people always say, like, "Hey, I saved you a click." How can you save a click for everyone? All right. Yeah. Let me check questions one more time. Announcement section, upcoming live stream, Maker Day. Oh, it's like having a producer in my ear. Thank you, Colleen. Yeah, let's talk about upcoming events. So yeah, Thursday. Yeah. So Thursday, the 17th, I'll be on Mike Locke's Zoom call, his meetup, and then the next day, Friday, I'll be on VoiceFlow's show. I'm going to be talking about why no code is for all ages. But if you're already a member of this community, you already know why, right? And if not, then it's okay. Come over and learn. Yeah. Do we have a link for that? I'll try to find a link. I'll put it in the description. And then, wow, three things. Oh yeah, and then Saturday, our next stream, we're gonna have Rudy from the Circle.so team. They're the team that made this chat board, this space, you know? And it's really, really cool. And it's very no code. It has an open API. It can work with Zapier. It's super awesome. And I want to learn more about him and how his team made this happen. So be here next week for that. Uh, what else? What else am I missing, Colleen? Maker Day. Oh yeah, we can talk about Maker Day. Maker Day winners. Let me put that on screen. Really, really Maker cool. What? It's very no code. Link. That was this stream. That was weird. It was meta. All right. So yeah, if you didn't see the winners of the Maker Day, go to this blog post. But Colleen also joined on this one. You have 24 hours to make a thing and go. And some of the winners are Sarkis won for best business or e-commerce prototype. He, inside of Webflow, he rebuilt what he thinks Zoom should look like. And yeah, Zoom is not very UX friendly. And he thought, okay, how can I make that UX friendly? And he did the thing all in Webflow. Let me see here. Can I get to it? Yeah, and he also added a custom code so it can use your camera. So I'm going to press allow. And I'm going to click on Sarkis. He is a mad genius. He built a Mac. This is not my Mac. This is Webflow. He's crazy guy. Okay. All right, let's start this one. And so that is nutty. This is my webcam and these are background video. Wait, how is there two of me? Hi, me. Oh man. So yeah, these are just HTML background videos. But he built this inside of Webflow. Crazy guy. Didn't he have different he had different views. That's what's one of the things he was trying to do. Sarkis. Man. Nutty. Best enterprise solution by FinSuite or FinSuite. Basically, being able to go from a form on Webflow and send that data into Airtable without Zapier. And it's just a proof of concept. But what if you can do that and more, like integrate other types of apps without Zapier? I love Zapier, but then it gets super expensive when you're doing so many things. What if you can, what if you can remove that, but use Zapier for other things that, aren't integrated yet? I don't know. So that's really cool. Let's see here. Best integration or add-on. I didn't see this one yet. Let me see here. This project lets a Webflow user turn any of their div blocks into a PDF. What makes this different from other PDF generation tools for Webflow is that there's no backend logic using a script, the PDF generated directly in the browser. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Congrats to Vivek, the best social impact. And I heard from the team, the Webflow events community team, that this website for a nonprofit organization is actually going live soon. So building a whole site for a nonprofit within 24 hours, crazy. So congrats to that team. Who did that? Can't see who did it, but congrats. And I think this. Okay, so best portfolio. I want to see this. The Amit. Oh, cool. She's using parallax right there. Kind of like reminds me of that fire game or something. Choose your adventure. Cool. I would put a background color for the nav bar. See how the content and the nav bar are crashing into each other? All right. Oh, that's nice. Nice. Amit, congrats to you. And yeah, last one, best clone project of a pre-built template. Shah, I can't say the name. So he used a free template and built his portfolio in 24 hours. Wait, where's the... Browsing is totally safe on my website. Hope you like my work. Wait, huh? Wait. That's not on Webflow. Okay. If I go here, he cloned the free template, but what? Okay, I'll talk to the team about this. Like, what? All right. Well, okay. Anything else that I'm missing? Anything else on my show notes? No. Thank you, Colleen, so much for keeping me on track. But that's it. That's it for today's stream. I will see you next week. This stream happens every Saturday at 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pacific time. Let me get the music going. There we go. So, okay, better. All right, yeah. So we learned so much from Mike. If you haven't subscribed to him yet, please do so. Subscribe to his Twitter account, his YouTube. Wonderful, wonderful, free, valuable information about UX. And always look for things, always listen and make things better. And that's how we make things beautiful on the web, you know? We listen with empathy, and that's what our community is doing. Speaking of community, again, pixelgeek.community. I want you in there so we can all just continually interact between each stream. And it looks like this. It's a labor of love, and I met so many wonderful people through my career, and I want to spotlight you all. I want you all to grow, you know, and this is why I created this. We have over 200 tutorials. If you haven't been to the website yet, there's over 200 tutorials, so many resources that you can go through. And this is not just official Webflow videos, but this is community-made videos. So if you're making videos or if you're making tutorials in an article form, you can submit that. And when you submit it, I put it right here, a donate button. And this goes to your Buy Me a Coffee page, because I want you to be rewarded for what you do, what you love doing, which is sharing knowledge. Also, I'm opening up a community marketplace so people can find stuff that you've built, like templates or Webflow components, and you can sell them through your Buy Me a Coffee page. All right, so that's coming. A job board for people who are looking for freelance for like Webflow no code projects. You know, that's gonna come, and it's not just gonna be a listing of projects. I'm doing it differently. I'm making it more human. So stay tuned for that, and start working on your projects because we're getting towards the end of the year, and I want you to be part of the No Code Awards, and that's gonna be fun. I have a lot of prizes lined up. I have judges already lined up, and yeah, get ready for that. But thank you all so much for being here. You all are awesome. And if you have any more questions or need more help, get on the Pixel Geek community chat board and I will answer them there. So that's it. I will see you next week. And as always, and I say this every time and I say it with honesty, make the web beautiful together. See ya.